very warm welcome to everyone who's joined us. A particularly warm welcome to Francesca and to Luca Cumani. Thank you both very much for joining us. I'll let Francesca talk about her dad, her pa in detail, but dual Derby winner and just for Old Gold Racing's move into the flat. This is just superb. And then we've got Ray Cochrane joining us. He should have already joined us, but there's a tech issue. So hopefully he will just appear. And likewise, at about sort of probably 5 or 10 past 8, Jason Weaver will appear. He's just coming back from having been working for Sky Sports Racing at Brighton. So just a few little parish announcements. One is, please do feel free to submit your questions in the chat forum, and we will answer as many as we can at the end. I'll come back on. So including Lou Palmer, hi, and Jay, that's all great. Thank you for that. I will try and questions which haven't been answered during the course of the evening, I'll try and get to you. A big thanks once again to JM Finn, who sponsor all these Zoom evenings with Old Gold Racing and Francesca. Thank you particularly to Simon Tufnell, one of the directors of JM Finn, and all his colleagues who are with us now. And thanks particularly to all the team at Old Gold Racing who pull this together. So particularly Holly, Hannah, James, who's sort of trying to shovel Ray into this thing at the moment behind the scenes. And Annabelle's done a lot of pushing on this too. Two last things I'm going to say, and then I'm going to let Francesca move across and talk Derby with her pa. The first is we've got another JM Finn sponsored Zoom in a couple of weeks' time for Royal Ascot, again with Francesca, which is fantastic. This time featuring Charlie's, Hills and Fellows, and also Jim Crowley and Megan Nichols. So hopefully, Racing Breaks Rider will be running at Ascot. We're trying to get some Old Gold recognition for that somehow, which is probably Francesca using our name a lot while it's on telly. But well, he's on telly, he did a brilliant job at Ascot. But we know who bought the horse, and and we're really looking forward.
Anthony who?
Someone, he's not watching, he's not on this, it's fine. We'll send out an email to all OGR owners and any other registrations for that. And lastly, we are running a competition live this evening, which is for a couple of tickets to the grandstand for the Derby itself. So the way to enter that, by being on this Zoom, you are already qualified. But what you need to do is to put into chat the phrase Derby me. 2 words, Derby me, so that we know, and only put the words Derby me if you can go on Saturday and you're not a member of Animal Rising. Don't really want it. Really good. Unless you're prepared to glue yourself to one of Animal Rising and stay with them for the rest of their lives. That'll do.
Don't, Ed, I've just had an email from ITV. I probably shouldn't be saying this. I had an email saying, can you make sure you bring a spare change of clothes for Saturday, just in case, in light of the protests? I'm like, what? What's going to happen? I tell you,
I've got a trick for you. Just if you've got any orange clothes anyway, because that seems to be their colour. So if you just go in orange and they chuck a whole lot of orange,
get kind of blasted with orange. What is it? Kind of a paint powder?
Oh, it's vegan powder. It's it's vegan. Don't worry, it's harmless unless you're unless you're a meat eater.
Orange. I'll tell Sarah to dress me in orange.
It'd be quite. I don't think you're a supporter.
Yeah. Oh God, I really hope it's not going to be a problem.
I wanted to go be in with the Romneys, kind of in the middle, because I reckoned if they were in there, it'd be quite interesting to watch. And I thought I might glue myself to a protester for the rest of their lives and see how much they hated racing after that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to a wedding actually, so I'm going to be watching you on ITVX. Down the actual service is at 12:30, so I think the Derby's at 1:30, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I might just be able to have my iPhone in my top hat and just be in a Bluetooth headphone in. But listen, enjoy your chat you're going to have tonight. We are trying to get Ray into this. We're trying to get Jason in too. If a flat jockey walks past my window in the next sort of 45 minutes, I'll grab him as well, just to pad it out. But
oh, what?
We're a bit, only because we're a bit shorter people.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
Oh,
Hang on. Here we go.
Ray, thank you very, very much for joining us. I'm Ed Seyfried. I'm Chief Executive of Old Gold Racing. Oh, not sure we got sound. There's a button on the far left.
Here we go. Oh, did not connect.
I wonder if we can do it remotely. James, you listening? Can you do it remotely? Select. Oh, no. Ray, can you hear us? Will you put a thumbs up if you can hear us? No. Oh, there's a thing there. Oh, something's happening. I could chat to him, but that doesn't really help, does it? God, the suspense is, you see, everyone watching this, we did debate whether to delay starting so that we didn't have a sort of pause in the middle. And we are, so we're professionals, we can talk through it.
Maybe the two of us will start chatting, and then Ray, once he's worked
you want
out.
to do that? Shall we leave that? Will you just? That's superb. I will bail out for the time being. I'll be back at a time that suits, but before probably about 8:15, 8:30, and I look forward to seeing you all then. And I'm really looking forward to watching this. So see you all then.
Great. And it's good that I can see lots of Derby me's popping up on the bottom. So that's good. Everyone's getting involved in the competition, and hopefully we'll have Ray very soon, but we might as well start chatting. And it's quite funny to be interviewing my own dad about the Derby, because I feel like it's such a topic that's been discussed so much around the dining table at home, and it's been so present in our lives. But to go back to the days of Kayazi and High Rise winning it'll be good to do that, because I feel like my memory has probably got a lot of holes in it, and especially to have Ray's influence as well in the conversation will be great. Good article in the Racing Post about those winners, and clearly the memory is very fresh, because you were saying Kayazi wasn't the easiest horse to train in terms of you could work him plenty, but he didn't always take it in the same way.
No, that was the other one.
Oh, that was the other one. Oh, that was High Rise.
Kayazi took everything.
That was clearly me skim reading.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
You must concentrate a bit more when you read.
I know.
But no, Kayazi took everything in his stride, and you could give it as much work as you wanted, and he'll come back for more. And he was a really easy horse to train.
So I was trying to remember, what kind of price did he go off at?
11-1, I think, if I remember right. It was a long time ago.
Here we go.
Hi, Ray.
Look, how you doing? All right. Sorry about this.
Well,
Thank you, James.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
And you, how you doing? All right.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Oh, this is
Francesca.
No worry. It's so nice having you both in a virtual room together, because my dad was just saying, Ray, it's been a while since you've had a chat, and this is a good opportunity to go down memory lane. So we were just discussing Kayazi and the famous win in 1988. It's funny, actually, I was 5 at the time, and I think my brother was 7, and we've both been asked in separate interviews, or where were you, or do you remember the time when Kayazi won the Derby? And I've said quite confidently, oh yeah, we were all sitting in the playroom watching it and getting really excited. And my brother said, no, we were sat in the kitchen watching it. So clearly don't have any memory at all. So if you could bring it back to life for us, that would be great. Ray, you were stable jockey at the time, correct?
Yes, I was stable jockey at the time, and obviously I loved coming to your dad because it was a fantastic job, and I always looked at his horses when they were on the heath, and they always looked fantastic. So they did, It was a great time for me to move there. And Kayazi won his first start at Newmarket as a 2-year-old, very nicely. And we always thought he was going to be a special horse.
And I was trying to get a sense of the dynamic from Jason when we were in the car the other day, because I said, so you were there when Ray was there. Well, did you cross over, etc.? And he said, well, Ray was number 1, and then there was Ray Guest, and another Ray, and then Frankie appeared, and then Jason was there. But it sounded like there was a whole stack of jockeys at the time.
Oh, there was, yeah, there was some great fun going on too. But no, we had some good lads there, and they were all worked well together. Luca kept them all nicely together and apart when he needed to, you know. But we all worked well together, so we did. Yeah, it was a great atmosphere there. Great atmosphere.
I also said what was the dynamic like, because supposedly the old man, he's that side of my screen, has mellowed a lot in old age. So I dread to think what he was like back then.
No, he was quite good. We always got on well, bar the odd occasion, but we always got on well because I had great respect for him. I had great respect for his training and the way his horses looked and the way the horses, the whole yard was conducted. It was very, very good, and I loved it. You know, I loved it.
And
You're very kind to say these things, but I can't give you any rides anymore, so don't keep flattering.
So
I must actually tell them. I really should tell them about the first time we ever met. The first time me and your dad ever met. I was riding sort of. He more likely won't remember any of this. I was riding sort of 10 or 15 winners a year, and whenever the big meetings always come along, I would always look to go somewhere else because I knew I wasn't going to do any good at the big meetings. Anyway, on this one particular occasion, Glorious Goodwood, I had one good ride on the Saturday, only one ride, but I had to go and ride, which is a very nice filly. Anyway, I thought, I'm not going to drive this thing, the Goodwood aeroplane thing coming around again, was the first time it ever happened. And I said, I'm not driving the Goodwood on a Saturday, it's a nightmare. I got a plane down, I got a seat in the plane down. So I got on the plane, put my bag in the back. There was no one else there. I thought, I'm not paying for this on my own, hopefully. Who arrives? Your dad. Gets in the plane. Morning. He sits and reads his paper. The plane takes off and I go to sleep. We arrive at Goodwood, maybe 10 minutes before we land. And he turns around, looked at me. I woke up eventually, started reading the paper, and he said to me, are you riding here today? I said, yes, I am actually riding here because he had no idea who I was. I knew he didn't know who I was. Or why should he? Why should he know who I was? Anyway, he said, I'm riding number 1 in the nursery, 5 furlong nursery. So he opened his paper, looked at it, and oh yes. His first words were, 10 stone. It's got 10 stone. He said, how will it run? I said, it'll win. With 10 stone? He said, yes. I think it won well, Luca, didn't it? You can't remember. You can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It won well. It won well. Misty for me, and I think I won the Flying Childers Honour later on, so I did. That was our first encounter together, so it was. Yeah. Obviously, you don't remember any of that, do you?
No, wait. How did it come about that you became stable jockey?
He had no jockey. Because
Go on, he can tell you.
All of a sudden, he sort of came on my radar by looking at the statistics in the Racing Post. And he had a very good strike rate, and he was riding mostly crap horses, and he was winning with a lot of bad horses. So that I started following that, and I noticed that he had a good strike rate. Then I started, whenever possible, to watch him. In those days, we didn't have Racing UK and Sky Sports, but we had SIS, which was on and off at times, but you could follow a little bit. And I started sort of thinking, this guy's a good rider, seems to be always in the right position at the right time, and he doesn't seem to make many mistakes. And I can't remember how then I approached. Can you remember how I approached you to give you the job?
Yeah, I don't remember actually at all. I think you rang me up or something to you, did you know, something like that. They invited me around for a cup of tea or something.
So I can't remember how it all came about, but I know that at one point I decided that you were my man, and offered you the job, and luckily you took it. And I think we always got on very well, apart from the times when you were doing too light, and your temperament wasn't the best when you were doing too light.
Well, I've made up for that now, don't worry. Doing light, it doesn't agree with people.
Apart from that, literally the odd times when you were trying to bring yourself down to ride at 8.4 or 8.5, which I always thought was crazy. And your temperament wasn't very good, and you tended to be a little bit irksome. But other than that, when you were doing 8.7 or more, you were a joy to work with.
Well,
I'm pretty horrible to be around when I'm hungry, so I can totally understand that. And the Derby, Kayazi was how far into the relationship? Was it quite early on or well into it?
second season, I think. Second season, Luca, wasn't it? Yeah, second season.
Very likely, yeah. It was the second year.
Well, I won on him at 2, so it must have been the second season, I think. Yeah.
Okay, and Jason's just popped up. I want to thanks, Jace, for charging home from your Sky duties and joining us. We're a little bit delayed because we had a bit of a technical issue, but we're just chatting about Kayazi. We haven't quite got to the Derby yet, but I want to know, like Derby day when it came around. You said he was about an 11-1 shot. He won. Did he win the Lingfield trial as well as High Rise?
Yeah, he won a conditional race at Sandown over a mile first. And the funny thing was that I think it was only 3 or 4 runners in the race, and none of the horses he beat that day ever won a race in their life. So it was an easy race for him. And then he won the Lingfield Derby trial. But at the time, he was the second string for the Aga Khan because Michael Stout had Blue Yule, who was the number 1. And so that's why we had the second colours.
Okay. And did you both go there with huge confidence on Derby morning?
I don't know about Ray, but Jessica, you know me, and I never go into a race with confidence. I always think they're going to get beat.
It's like we're a bit like horses. Never approached with confidence. I'm only ever hopeful, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I was confident. I was confident that my horse was a tough professional animal, and that I knew this was the days. Remember when we used to go across the middle of the track, canter down, come back, and go across the middle. I thought with a bit of luck, it might actually wake him up because he was real sleepy, Luca, wasn't he? And he was always half asleep. So I thought with a bit of luck, this might wake him up. And our other runner, Kiefer, I thought it wouldn't really suit him. But I thought, no, this is the right horse for the right race. We just get a bit of luck. Sometimes you don't get that luck, but on this special day, we got all the luck going, and we were really lucky.
And the thing I remember most is that we had 2 runners. The other one was Kiefer. And in my heart of hearts, I always thought Kayazi had a better chance, but obviously I couldn't say that because I couldn't offend the owner of Kiefer. And Kiefer had won the Dante. And so he was, even though he'd won the Dante, he wasn't amongst the favourites. Because in those days, the Dante wasn't the be-all and end-all of the trials. And I remember when I said to Ray about 10 days before the Derby, I said, we're going to work the horses on the wrong way around the linekins to reproduce the downhill left-hand bend. And I said, will you ride them both and then decide? And he said to me, no, I'll watch them. And I thought that was a strange thing. I said, well, why wouldn't he ride them? But you can probably elucidate on that now. Why did you watch them instead of ride them?
I can't remember, actually. I don't remember. I actually thought you told me to watch them. I thought you told me to watch them.
No.
Well, I'd ridden them both, or 2 and 3, and I knew what they were going to be like, I knew they're both even nice riding horses. They'd go around the track. I didn't think that would make any difference to either, or the ground. So I suppose I can't remember. I thought you told me to watch them, so I did.
And wait, just quickly,
I can guarantee you for sure that you said to me, no, I'm going to watch them. And I remember you stood in the middle of the linekins and you watched them go round.
I must have had a late night that night, coming back from Redcar or something.
Wait, just quickly, who rode Kiefer and what happened to him?
John Reid rode Kiefer. He was 5th. He finished 5th.
Yeah.
He travelled the winner all the way through the race, didn't he?
Sorry, Ray, who rode him?
John Reid.
John Reid, that's right.
John Reid rode him, yeah. And I mean, I tracked him all the way through the race. He went round there with a double handful all the way around through the race. And I was like, hope he gets tired in a minute.
And then Kayazi, did he take a bit of stoking up?
Yeah, well, I mean, he missed the start a little bit. And then I was for a little bit further back than I wanted to be. But I thought, just take your time, take your time. They were going a nice gallop. And we went up by Philip Mitchell. And I just slotted it on the outside. And then I just gradually worked my way up and he had a nice position top of the hill. But I was still niggling him along a little bit. So I gave him a good dig in the ribs. And he came on the bridle and just moved smoothly down the hill, had a beautiful position turning in. And I thought, don't be going too soon here. Let him take his time, let him breathe. And I let him go about a furlong and a half out and away he went. It was a grand little horse.
And two questions that I think would be quite pertinent here. One to the trainer being, is there such a thing as a perfect Derby horse? Like, is there just one type and one attribute, characteristic type mix that you need? And then to the jockey, like, is there one perfect way to ride the race? Or are there just lots of different variations? Sorry about this cat. Just get rid of the cat. Yeah, because I think everyone kind of asks, what's the perfect Derby horse? And is there a perfect way to ride the race? So we'll start with the trainer's angle first.
With the risk of sounding facetious, the best horse to win the Derby with is the fastest horse. And that applies to every race. But apart from that, then if you go into specifics or small and break it down into small segments, the best horse is a horse with a good temperament, because he's got to really withstand and be able to cope with the atmosphere and the amount of people that are at the Derby, and the noise and the loudspeakers and so on, and then the parade and the going down to the start. And generally speaking, for the Derby, I don't know why, but for the Derby, they seem to send horses down very early, and it's a long way before they put them in the stalls, and there's a lot of walking about and a lot of waiting. So you need temperament, most important thing. And then after that, you need the horse to be a horse that responds to the jockey, and when the jockey wants to ease him up, coming down the hill or keep bringing back on the bridle, he's amenable to do that and listens to the jockey. And then a horse that has then the acceleration necessary to go past the other horse in the last couple of hours. Easy.
Simple.
Simple.
Well, you better keep that all.
One every year. You want one every year, don't you, Luca?
You go what?
You want one of those horses every year.
That's the most difficult.
That's the most important bit.
Well, we'll keep all those things in mind, because I'm going to ask you soon which horse in this year's Derby has got all of those things and is the most likely winner. But Ray, is there a perfect way to ride the race?
Well, perfect way to ride the race. Obviously, you've got to have as Luca said, you need a horse. He needs to be relaxed, but he needs to be forward going enough so you can take a nice position, and then he needs to relax after you get up that position and travel nicely, in the race. And then whenever you need him to move up, he can move up smoothly without coming on too hard on the bridle, so he's using too much gas. So if he can freewheel, hold the position, move up when you want him to, freewheel down the hill, and then get air into him, and then just let him quicken up in the straight, sort of thing. You need that type of horse. He's got to be a real athlete. He's got to be an athlete. That's what you need, a relaxed athlete.
Jason, is there a way not to ride the race?
Yeah, don't go flat out on a miler like I did on Mr. Bailey's. I get reminded of that every time this Derby comes around. But no, he ran an absolute stormer. And it seems to, what Ray was saying there about getting the horse to travel. When you get to the top of the hill, they'll switch back over from the right-hand side over to the left. And if you can't travel in that part of the race, it gets incredibly tight there. I've seen Fallon win on horses, and basically that maneuver up the top where it was getting very, very tight. He was absolutely brilliant on a Chris Kin and horses like that. He needs to be ready for the battle as well.
I feel like there's so many questions I want to ask everybody. I know we started a bit late. Hopefully Ed will let us go over time a little bit, and I hope you guys are all okay with that and everybody listening. Ray, just for people to know, because I think a lot of people know that my dad is now breeding and doing all that very successfully, but what do you do with yourself these days?
Well, after I retired from riding, I got injured in different bits and pieces. Frankie offered me his job as obviously he's been his agent, which I held down for 21 years. And then I retired, took early retirement, and I decided that I had all the things I wanted to do bar sit in the office all day. So I've got a big allotment. I've got a half an acre allotment, and we've got 2 dogs sitting here too. And I'm a very keen cyclist. I race during the winter time, and that takes up all my day. So it does. That takes up all my day.
And he's talking himself down. Sorry, Francesca. And he's talking himself down. He's about the fittest old guy in this area in Suffolk. He's nearly world champion on his bike. Come on, Ray. What level are you at? Where are you?
No, I am a member of a team who are up in Coventry, but I'm a slow one. But I can compete in my age group, but that's it. Whenever we go to the races and the quick boys are on there, you soon see your age and you see how slow you are because they're just gone.
He's talking absolutely rubbish, honestly, right? When he was riding, he couldn't wait to tell you what a wonderful rider he was, and now he's a machine on the bicycle. He's playing it down.
He's gone all modest. And Ray, how do you feel about talking about the plane crash that you were involved with Frankie? Do you get asked about it a lot? Is it still difficult to talk about? Bring back?
I can talk about it. It's no problem. I can talk about it. It's one of those things life throws at you that you've got to deal with it. That's what happens. Life throws these things at you, and you just deal with them as the best you can.
And you basically saved Frankie's life that day because he was knocked out, wasn't he, in the crash?
What happened was we hit the ground. And I hit the side of the window panel. I was knocked out for maybe 10 seconds or something. Frankie wasn't actually knocked out. He hit the side of the other window panel and he cut his face and his head, and the blood was in his eyes and he couldn't see. He couldn't see what he was doing, you see. But he was forward, the pilot was over there, and I was back here. And I thought, the door was caved in on us. So I thought, how are we going to get out of here? And I'd already been in 2 other plane accidents, so I sort of had half an eyes up on what was going on,
Hang on, you've already been in 2 plane crashes. How are you unlucky enough to be in 3 plane crashes?
I'm unlucky. Let's hope there's not a 4th.
My God.
And,
okay, you're like, been here, done that.
Yeah, I know.
The previous ones weren't as dramatic as the one with Frankie, were they?
The first one was pretty dramatic. It was frightening because I didn't know what was going on. I knew what was going on with Frankie's plane crash, but the first one I didn't know what was going on. But anyway,
knowing what was going on, I find it even more scary anticipating it. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Well, it's all in slow motion. Everything happens in slow motion. Whenever we were coming over, the plane was banking to the right. Hey, we're heading for the dike. We're heading for the dike, and I thought, well, that's it, Patrick, get it over the dike and get it down on the Rui Mile somewhere, on the back of the flat. That's great. But the wind was coming from the National Stud and flipped the plane over, up like that. The wing tip caught the top of the dike and fired down like that, straight down. It was facing down into the bottom of the dike. And I just went, this is going to hurt. I remember nothing after that until I woke up. And Frankie was laid there, Patrick was laid forward, and I just turned left, and the only way out was the baggage hat was open where we put our bags in. So I just grabbed Frankie and pushed him out, and then I went to go for the pilot, but Frankie was screaming because his leg was broke. So I had to get out and push him away. By that time, the plane had just blown up, basically. It was full of aviation fuel, and the wind was blowing it all over the plane, so I couldn't get the pilot out, and that was it.
And did you have to drag Frankie on the ground? Did you have to drag him?
I dragged him out the way. He wouldn't crawl or anything. He was screaming and shouting and roaring. So he was, but that's him, But he was quite badly hurt, and he was frightened to death, He was frightened to death,
God, how terrifying. How terrifying. And well done you.
Well, I was the only one there. I was the only one there to do anything. I was the only one there, It's amazing because you think you're at top of the dike, you thought, someone will be here in a minute, someone will be here. There's a big explosion going on. Someone will be here. It seemed to take forever for the lads on the tractors who are on the heath, to arrive. I was amazed. I thought someone would be here like instantly, but obviously it's a long way up there, It's a long way up.
How lucky was it that you weren't badly hurt?
Well, if I'd have been unconscious for, like, say, 2 or 3 minutes, we wouldn't be having the conversation. And that's as simple as that.
Yeah,
there wouldn't have been no Frankie at all.
Do you still travel by aeroplane?
Yeah, I have done. Yeah. You get over it. You do get over it. What are you going to do if you have a car crash? You're not going to say I'm going to walk everywhere, do you? I still ride a motorbike. I go out on my bike every day. I drive the car every day. It's the way it goes.
God, how terrifying. Anyway, back to a slightly lighter note. On the breeding front, one of the questions that Hannah wanted me to ask, which I think is a good one. Is it the main ambition with the operation at Fittock Stud to breed a Derby winner?
Well, it's obviously an ambition. It's probably unrealistic because let's face it, there's probably 14,000 horses bred that have the credential that potentially be a Derby horse, and that we're lucky enough to breed the one that goes on in that crop to win the Derby is beyond hope. But you certainly try. And if he was to come, I'd be delighted. But I'm running out of time now, so I haven't got a lot of time left to do that. But certainly I would try. But the important thing is to raise sound horses that win races, and then if you're lucky enough to breed a very good one, then even better.
It's a funny one though, isn't it? Because you feel that the kind of the trend is going more towards the more commercial, miler, more sprinting type, earlier 2-year-old type. But then I don't know, because you said in your Racing Post article that you don't think the Derby is quite what it was. Yet seemingly you speak to other people, even Ed Walker, I saw him saying in an article, oh yeah, the Derby is a pinnacle. Everyone still wants to win the Derby. So it's a bit of a funny one where the trend is away from those kind of horses. And even we see Derby winners now being retired to be National Hunt stallions, yet we still all
everybody wants to win the Derby. And it's because the Derby is the oldest most important race. It was first run, I think, in 1780. So it's been around a long time, and for a long time it's been inbuilt in the psyche of racing people that is the race everybody wants to win. It's lost a little bit of its importance because so many other good races have appeared around the world, not just in England. Yes, in England you also have Royal Ascot has become more important. A lot of people would say I'd rather have a winner at Royal Ascot than anywhere else. You have races like the Juddmonte and the Champion Stakes and the Arc especially. So it's diluted the importance a little bit. But if you ask anybody what's the race you would most want to win, the vast majority of people will say the Derby.
Well, I was going to say there's only one Derby, but no, it's been replicated in lots of different places all over the world, which makes it even more special.
But when we talk about the Derby, we talk about the English Derby.
Yes. The Derby. Jason, how much crossover did you have with Ray in your jockey days when you were at Bedford House?
I was a young 16-year-old who'd come up from Wales with long hair at the back and an earring. So I'm not quite sure how I slotted into the stables there originally, but that soon went. I was lucky. I rode off to the British Racing School, and I came up, spent 5 weeks at Bedford House, went off for 9 weeks, and then Luca was kind enough to take me back on after the course up at Newmarket. So it was great. Listen, it was a wonderful time. I always talk about it as I look back at it with rose-tinted glasses because we had a wonderful team there that all looked after each other. It was nearly family-ish with all the lads and the lasses in the yard, and obviously we had with Luca and Sarah at the helm. Luca sort of ruling the roost with an iron fist and a rod, and Sarah being a bit kinder. But and Ray frightened the life out of you because we were just the scrawny kid, and Frankie was trying to make his way. It was honestly, it was a wonderful, wonderful time.
Come on.
Will you tell everybody what your nickname was?
Odds on Weaver, and the lads who still, I was working today up in Osterley for Sky, and we were covering Brighton, and True Dividend did come out again. He was my first winner for Luca, and he said, whatever you do, you just wait and get in balance, wait until you get to the bottom of the hill, and then ask him to sort of lengthen and stretch nicely up to the line. And I was a young kid, and it's about 4.5 to run as you come round the top turn. I was off and gone. He ended up winning by 12 lengths. It was horrific. Honestly, it was terrible. But my first 5 winners were all odds on shots. So they spray painted my bucket in the yard with my tools in that I used to wear out all the time. But they were with Odds On Weaver, and they still know me as Odds On now down the town.
You've forgotten a few of your other stories about how you were made to muck out my ponies and chop the chaff and the carrots, and how my mum used to just nick fags off you all the way back in gallops.
That's very true, because we were all hiding away, trying not to get caught. Look, there was one time, there were two very good horses, Mark of Distinction and Legal Case, were working up the gallops just opposite Prescott's down the bottom there, Sir Mark's. And, I'd only really been allowed to sort of ride the average horses because Luca knew that I would get far too excited. And it was a very important work for these two. And we came up there, and I think I was supposed to wait for Frankie to come and join me on Mark of Distinction. And I gave Legal Case a kick. It was like riding a Ferrari for the first time. This thing was an absolute machine. And I gave him a kick at the bottom of the hill and went clear. And I can remember Frankie saying, "What on earth are you doing there?" And I sort of looked at him and I said, I think I heard the crowd. Anyway, so, and obviously there's no crowd, and I can see my sir, as he was affectionately known, coming flying across the heath. Remember your big hack, the beautiful chestnut with the 4 white socks, used to buck all the time?
Greenwood.
Yeah, so Greenwood is now doing more than a healthy half speed across the heath towards me. And I thought, oh, but yeah, so we were in for it. But thankfully for me, they both went and won Group 1s the following week, I think. So I think that it certainly wasn't down to me going too quick anyway, but they'd already had the groundwork in.
So you gave him a bit of a pipe opener, and then he went off and won his Group 1.
Listen, it was fantastic time back then. And, when you're riding such good horses, I know you're talking about the Derby now. I think I was shut in on High Rise up at Pontefract going around the home turn. And I think it was Simon Whitworth was outside me. And he was riding for all his life to keep me in coming around the home turn. And I'm thinking, here I am on one of the best horses I've sat on as a young jockey or whatever, and I'm going to get beat around Pontefract. Thankfully, the gap opened up and he shot clear, and they run the High Rise Maiden there still now every year. And
then Olivier Pellier got put on him in the Derby.
Yeah, then I got dropped off for the Frenchman, and I'm not bitter about it at all, Luca.
It was nothing to do with me. I can't even remember how it came about. Did you ride him at Lingfield?
No, I didn't ride him at Lingfield, no.
Who rode him there? Can you remember?
I think, was it Frankie rode him at Lingfield?
No, Frankie wasn't my jockey anymore by then.
Who rode him at Lingfield then? Well, it wasn't. I didn't ride him at Lingfield. I rode him in the Pontefract race. I know that. Yeah. That was very early on. But of course, at that time, we had Pirate Army, who was probably the best looking horse I still remember to this day. How far did he win the Lingfield Derby trial by? I think he won by about 25, Ray, didn't he?
Yeah. He won nicely. He won quite nicely, yeah. He was a nice horse. There was another day, it was a piece of work came along. Look, do you remember it? Colin Ray led, Sarah sat second and I sat third. Do you remember that piece of work?
Where was it?
On the back of the flat. And Colin just jumped off. He was on, I think, a mile, I can't remember what it was. I think Sarah was on Pirate Army, and I can't remember what I was on. But Colin jumped off, went flat in the boards. I couldn't lay up. I was well
because Sarah told him to kick on.
No. And then Sarah went and won the work. As you said, Jason, the hack comes screaming across the heath. There was a word said, I quite assure you. There was lots of words said.
The strength in the squad back then, it was tremendous. You were walking up and down the American barns there, and whether it was Mick O'Shea had the top end, you had Jimmy was looking after one, Maxie Taylor, he was looking after another barn, and there was just row upon row of it was a fantastic time.
Now I'm conscious of the time. It's 8:20, and I know lots of people want to be asking questions. So let's move on to this year's Derby. Well, firstly, I hope it goes off without too much hassle, because there's a lot of threat from Animal Rising, but fingers crossed, we'll be okay. Jason, are you happy that Passenger's been supplemented?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I was listening to you talk before about wanting to be really relaxed, and I like the way that he took the prelims wandering around at York. He maybe was a bit freer going to post than ideal, and he's the eye catcher. But I still thought that he possibly had enough time, were he good enough to sort of zip through and get the job done. I'm not sure whether the Derby win is going to come from the Dante, but I'm happy that he's got supplemented. He's obviously a major player.
It's tricky though, isn't it? Because you kind of think, part of you could say, well, he's had 2 races both this year, and the Dante was relatively high pressure, and he was a bit keen going down to the start. Will he have learned from that and be a more settled, more professional horse next time? Or, you know, backing up two and a bit weeks later, is it all going to fry his head, especially with the occasion? He could go either way.
Yeah, I suppose the good thing was, even though he was a touch lit up on the way to post and in the race, even a touch, he's not a sweaty individual, not very much unlike his sire Ulysses, who was he used to get himself really, really warm. And as far as Sir Michael, he'd be prepping him for the big day, so there would have been a good bit to work on from there. Of course, he was fit enough to do himself justice and everything else, but he will have learned a good deal from York, I think.
And Ray, how closely do you follow it now? And will you be cheering on your old mate Frankie on arrest?
I don't follow it obviously as close as I used to when I was Frankie's agent, but I still, you know, will watch the racing now and again, you know. And I think Frankie's got a great ride. I think that horse was very impressive at Chester. Didn't really like the conditions that much and got a bit tired, but I think he's a live player, and his form is there with all the best of them, you know. I wouldn't put it like this. If I was still his agent, I wouldn't be swapping that ride for anything else in the race.
Okay. And what do we make of the fact that Auguste Rodin is, I think he's now gone into favouritism, hasn't he, off the back of a terrible run in the 2000 Guineas?
Agents can do that, can't they? They can run a very disappointing race, which some of them do in the 2000 Guineas, and then 2 or 3 weeks later they bounce back and they run fantastic races. I've seen an hour over the weekend, you know. But he's the class horse in the race. He's Group 1 winner, and obviously agents not going to run him for the sake of just bringing him over here.
No, and I think that had he, it's funny, this seems funny to say, but had he not even run in the 2000 Guineas, he wouldn't be 3-1 favourite for the Derby. He'd probably be even money favourite if he was going in there without a run. And that's something.
Has that been done? Like first up in the Derby that season?
No, it was only, it's a long time ago since Charmit, isn't it? For William and Maureen. I think he did it first up. But that's going back a little. But like he's obviously had a run. What I'm saying is he would be closer to even money favourite if he was going there without having seen him so far this season, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we saw what Little Big Bear did at Haydock at the weekend off the back of a poor run in the 2000 Guineas. I don't know. I didn't.
Oh, come on! If you go arrest, you can give him a chance. You know, Dubai Mile was 5th in the Guineas. That's a good trial, and his form ties in with him. You're then working your way up. The next 5 Passenger that we've talked about. You know, Waipiro probably ran a really good trial. Didn't have as good a run round as Military Order in the Lingfield Derby trial, and I was quite pleased that Ed took him to Newbury for a schooling session, because he came into the paddock at Lingfield screaming and shouting, and he was a right handful. So if you're part of one of those horses, I think that you'd be saying you'd have a reason as to why you were going to run much better than your odds.
Yeah, you can give loads of them a chance in the race, can't you? So for me, I mean, we had this debate at ITV because Ed Chamberlain says, oh, well, there's no real selling point to this year's Derby. But for me, the fact that it's such an open contest with horses coming from all different places, representing all different connections, makes it more exciting, because in the recent years, we've whinged about the fact that most of the field is from Ballydoyle and they've got a real stranglehold on the race. So for me, it's more exciting. Do you agree, Dad?
Yes, I entirely agree. I think it's a conundrum this year because you either go for August Rodin or as Jason called him. What you call him, Jason? Rodin.
Listen, in the Caldicot Comprehensive I went to in Wales, he was called August Rodin, okay?
Quite right. But either you go for August Rodin or you take a pick of any of the others. It could well be that August Rodin wins by 5 lengths, and there would be no complaint about that because Aidan has done it before. He's a master trainer. He knows what he's talking about, and there wouldn't be any surprise. On the other hand, if you take it that not only did he not perform in the Guineas, and this is the slight angle I'm taking, his win in the Vertem Futurity, he didn't really beat a lot there because the second horse, Epictetus, is not in the field because he wasn't deemed good enough or able to stay far enough for the Derby. The third horse, Holloway Boy, flopped in the Guineas. So, and behind that, there wasn't much else. So he didn't really beat a lot of horses in the Vertem Futurity. So we really still don't know yet how good he is. We are just taking it on trust that because he's superbly bred, and because Aidan says he's very good, so we all go along and we say, yes, he must be very good. But if you go on pure facts, he wouldn't be my pick in the race.
And his form from last year, I'm pretty sure, is all on pretty soft ground, and we're not going to have those conditions on Saturday. So it sounds like you've very much done your homework, having gone through the form meticulously. Who would be your pick?
I think I go for the result of the Dante. I think if I was to pick 3 horses, I would pick the Foxes, White Birch, and Passenger. Not in that order necessarily, but I think the winner is going to come possibly from one of those 3. I know there's doubts about the Foxes, whether they stay or not, but I see no reason why a son of Churchill, who was bred strangely because he was by a staying influence out of a sprinting mare, but however, he still has staying blood in his pedigree, and he's out of a Darshan mare. You tell me how many horses out of a Darshan mare didn't stay a mile and a half? Very, very few. So I think he would stay the trip, and I was very impressed with the way he won the Dante. He did it strongly, he did it well, and I think he's flying under the radar. And because he's flying under the radar, so is White Birch, who I know, Cheska, is your pick for the race. And Passenger, he was very unlucky. Would he have won the Dante? Perhaps, but he certainly would have given the other 2 potentially a race. So I think I'll go with that. And apart from anything else, the Foxes did a very, very good time in the Dante. So that's also a good indication. And if he was 2.26 below standard. So if he's come out of the race with no ill effects for that effort, I think he's got a very good chance.
And what about the Lingfield Derby trial winner? Hang on, both of your Derby winners won the Lingfield Derby trial, and it was won by military order, Adayar's full brother, and you're happy to leave him out?
Well, you've got to. I can't pick them all because otherwise it would.
He's already had 3.
Exactly. But I just think that the form of the Dante is stronger than the form of the Lingfield Derby trial. And military order, again, we don't know how good he is because how good is Vaipiro? Before that he won a maiden at Newmarket. Nothing's come out of that race to frank the form. And so yes, I hope Vaipiro wins by 5 lengths because Ed was an assistant of mine and I'm a very good friend of his, so I wish him the best. But if I have to be dispassionate and just look at the facts, I don't think the form is as good as the Dante's.
Okay, I think Ed wants to pop up and ask some questions, but Ray, did we nail down your selection?
Yes, I'm going to go with Frankie's John Gosling. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. There you have
Good
it.
choice as well. I mean, he's another one that's a bit imponderable because his form ties with you by a mile. And again, is that good form? They were first and second in a very soft ground race in St. Cloud at the back end last year. Is that good form? Not particularly.
That race was never.
But it all ties in together. It all ties in together. All those horses were run together and met together, so they can all. Depends who improves. Depends who handles the track. Who handles the ground. Who has a good day. But it's a very open race. It's a very open race.
And I had an email today suggesting that if the protesters are out in force, there's talk of doing the old route down to the start, round. You know, they go. Well, you guys know better than me. Round where they pull up and then across the track.
The road, then across the downs.
Yeah, so potentially even more they're going to have to hand. Well, I don't know. I was going to say
no,
less. Yeah, probably less actually.
That's because I don't think that there will be that many people on that route, because there used to be people there. I remember I rode there around Epsom as an amateur in the Amateur Derby, and I went down that route, and there were people lining that route where the horses were walking from the bottom up to the start, and there were lots of people there. Sort of, you know, the Epsom is open to everybody. The hill is open to everybody. So there were people that were just assembling there to go and see the horses coming across and going to the start. But I don't think nowadays anybody goes there, because they don't expect the horses to come that way. So it's going to be very quiet.
When I rode in the ladies' derby, there was nobody there, and I had to canter all the way down to the start. And I think
if I get another one of these stories, you know, about how could you turn up on one of those beautifully bred individuals trained by your father, going past 3, 2, 1 now?
I hate to tell you, it was on something trained by Toby Coles, and we just about scraped in third. So it wasn't all right. Odds on Weaver, you settle down. It wasn't.
You probably came back in and said, "I'm not taking any outside rides. I had to push that one."
Exactly. Hi Ed, you're back.
I'm back. Hi, Jason.
Hi, buddy.
Vanished for a bit. Thank you so much for joining us. I've been roaring with laughter here. So, guys, thank you so much. It's been really, really informative. There's a plethora of questions that all came sort of pinging in, but I've got sort of maybe 3 or 4, 2 of which are kind of to everyone. So maybe you could quickly sort of answer. So to the panel, this is from Steve Madden. What's the best horse you've ever seen win the Derby in your time in racing? So that kind of goes to Cheska, to all of you really, because you've all been in racing for a bit. Which was your ultimate Derby winner in the time that you've been Derby conscious?
Well, I've been paying attention for much less time, so I'm going to defer to my elders here, and we should probably go with the youngest of them first. Go on, you go first, Jason.
That's a really good question, actually. I've got some time, unless you're going to tell us Kayazi straight away, Ray.
Well, obviously Kayazi for me, you know, but before I was riding in those type of races, you know, the one I just stands out was Shiga, you know, his fantastic performance. And Walter Swinburne, fantastic performance, you know, just come off the straight in his own.
Luca?
It's difficult. It's basically between Shergar, and my favorite for many ways is Galileo, because I remember clearly the way he was, when he was asked to quicken, he almost seemed to lower to the ground and engage a turbo. And I've seen very, very few horses do that. And he was very impressive. And he had a fantastic stride. The way Galileo moved and the way he came up that straight with this fantastic stride and low to the ground, it left a vivid impression on me.
I think Shergar's an easy pick, isn't he? Because he's so, you know, he was spectacular on the day. And if it was to be if you're thinking about Derby rides, Adam Kirby on Adayar, because he'd been jocked off the Ed Dunlop's hot price favourite the night before.
No.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Dunlop, you're right. Sorry, my mistake. Yeah.
Because he'd been jocked off the night before, he went and rode him like Ray Cochrane right down the fence in his old Australian days, didn't leave it, got a dream run through. What a ride that was.
I think probably my most memorable one as an event being there in terms of rides, a bit more like Jason, was when Paul Moir won. And it was Mikel Barcelona, wasn't it? And he came absolutely flying down the outside. And I think he stood up in his stirrups and started celebrating a stride before the line when he was not really even in front, and the horse only really won by a nose, but he was so confident that he'd won that he was like, "Wow!" And that was pretty ballsy.
Excellent, thank you for that. And then I've got one question for each of the panels. So, Jason, I've lost it. Shit. Jason, yeah, did you have a favourite track to ride on? That came from where's it gone? From Adrian Lambert.
It was always great to go just down the road if you're on the July course, and you had some fancy rides down there. You know, no travel, and it was always a lovely event in the evenings. If you were to say which was my luckiest track, believe it or not, I think Musselburgh. I was incredibly lucky up there. I had a good few four-timers up there at Musselburgh. So where you're lucky.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Ray, one for you. If you could, it's not quite asking the question what's going to win on the Derby on Saturday today, but if you could have ridden any of them, which one would you most like to have ridden? That's from Jay.
I think I'll go with Frankie's Ride. I like that horse. I like that horse. The horse that Frankie won on Chester. He's a well-bred horse, Frankel. He's a nice, easy-going horse. They were getting in his way around Chester, so they weren't going fast enough for him. I think he's a horse that would adapt very quickly. He's got a lot of speed. I think Frank will be able to put him wherever he wants to in the race, and I think he'll take a good position, and I think he'll take a bit of beating. That's what I'd go with.
That's fantastic.
Knowing Frankie's luck, he probably will just win it in his last
Look
year.
Is there a more lucky person ever been born? No.
And one for you, Luca, and this was going to show I probably won't phrase this correctly, but it'll show my breeding naivety.
As long as you pronounce it correctly, you won't get attacked. You'll be fine.
I don't think it's named after some artist who I can't afford. Yeah, this is it. If you were going to try and breed a Derby winner, to which stallion would you take? And this is where it's a bit of a difficult question because presumably you can't, but so which would be your most preferred stallion if you had the perfect mare to take to him?
I know what he's going to say.
How'd you answer that? How do you answer that question, Jessica? I've sort of got it right now.
Oh, as in what stallion would you use if you wanted to breed a Derby winner?
That one.
Yeah,
thank you.
I think I know what he's going to say, but I'll say it.
You say it.
I think you're going to say Frankel.
I'd say two. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Frankel and Dubawi. Frankel and Dubawi are the preeminent stallions. I know Dubawi hasn't had a Derby winner yet, but neither has, well, Frankel has had one. But still, Dubawi with the right mare, obviously, he would need to be something out of, say, a Darshan mare, something that has stamina on the female line, because Dubawi was basically an either. Gets plenty of mile and a quarter winners, gets mile and a half winners, but they have to be stoutly bred on the female line. And I think they're the two best stallions on the planet at the moment.
Wow, that's a very full answer. Thank you. Gosh, guys, thank you very, very much for everything. There's one little thing to say is who won the tickets to go to Epsom. And Tony Wang, can you call the office tomorrow? Or email, but preferably a call before midday. And actually, I'm going to put Alan Ritson there as a runner-up because if Tony for whatever reason can't go, it's quite nice to have a runner-up. And Alan will send you a scarf or a pin or something if Tony does ring. So thank you for joining us, Tony and Alan. Just my thank yous really, Luca, Ray, and Jason, thank you so much for joining us. And it was a real laugh and very informative and everything else. And I hope people have written down all those tips because I didn't, and I need obviously to invest while I'm in church singing hymns on
Don't worry.
Saturday.
Watch ITV on Saturday.
Oh, yeah, yeah, but I'm in church. Right? Yeah, that's a very good idea. You need everyone, please watch ITV racing on Saturday. It's going to be great. Chessa's going to go in orange in case she gets covered in animal rising goo. And once again, thank you very much to JM Finn for sponsoring this. Thank you so much for the panel. And Cheska, once again, thank you very, very much. We'll see you all, meaning the people watching this, thank you too, on the 23rd of June, was it? I haven't got the right bit of paper in front of me. Yes, the 13th of June, the 13th, 1-3, not 2-3, for our Royal Ascot preview. Guys, thank you all so much indeed. And good night.
Night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Night, Luca. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, bye, Ray.
Hey,
Good to
Jason.
see you. Good to see you, Jason.
Looking lean, Ray.
Leaner than you, that's for
I'm
sure.
a bit heavy at the minute.
All right,
It will
all
continue
right.
for a bit
Always-
longer.
Jason's quite lean at the moment.
I
Yeah.
don't know,
But-
but
but
one
Paul,
last
I've
year,
been at a golf competition with the lads, so we had English breakfast every morning. It's not good for the figure.
Have you tried on the morning suit yet?
Not yet, and I'm going to go and squeeze into that in a minute.
Good luck.
No by mouth for the next couple of days. And just practice your pronunciations, all right, Jace, before Saturday. If you don't get it
August.
from him, you'll get it from me.
Yeah, well, I don't mind getting it from you. At least you will tell me once or something, but Luca let me have it there, but that's fine. I can take it. I'm a big boy. It's okay.
It runs in the family, sorry.
Exactly.
Pernickety, spelling Nazis.
Right, I'm going to love you and
Right.
leave you.
All
Thank you
right.
very much.
Thank you
Bye-bye,
so much.
everybody.
Good to see you.
Bye-bye. Bye. Bye, Fair.
Thanks, Ed. Lovely.